Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis. It's time for the edition of Comic Book Roundtable. And it's one of those weeks where it's really not very round. It's more of just kind of an intimate me and Mike shooting the breeze. How's it going, Mike?
It's going excellent. Always glad to be here, to be the Ed McMahon to your Johnny show.
Yeah, something like that anyway. Yeah. So yeah, we did have other people that were going to come on, but things happen. Life gets in the way. Gosh darn it. But we're going to be here. We're going to talk some of the books that we read. I think we have a few that both of us read, and clearly, a handful that, we have opposite from each other. Didn't discuss it beforehand. Where do you want to start at tonight?
Did you pick up Black Widow?
Yes, I did. So we'll start with Marvel.
Start with Marvel then, yeah.
So, yes, the Black Widow #1, where the Daredevil team of Wade, Samney, and Wilson got off of Daredevil and are embracing Natasha, right?
Yes, yeah. Jumping into this, it was there seems to be a theme when you do a Black Widow book that it's got to be the intrigue. It almost regularly seems that she has to be tricking S.H.I.E.L.D. or be tied up with them. So for them to start out, where she's stolen something, they're very vague about what she's taken, and it's an amazing, story of her escaping, because the guy says she turns a 40,000-foot drop into a ballet, and that's what it was. I mean, it was beautiful how they did that.
Yeah. This is basically, I would assume this is pure Samney storytelling. I mean, there's some words, there's a little bit of dialogue in this, but otherwise it's, like 20 pages of her running away from S.H.I.E.L.D. and basically doing it in perfect style. I really enjoyed it. I mean, for just the pure action, ness of it, I have no idea. I mean, no idea what the book long term is going to be like, but this as a single issue, it's just freaking awesome. Curious to see what she stole that they're actually, they basically said it's stop her at all costs, clearly they're pulling punch just to start out with. They're not trying to truly kill her right away, because she has been a field agent for them for quite some time, right?
Yeah. And the fact that, there's so many times, even after they pretty much said to kill her, they always put the gun on her and then they wait.
Yeah.
Just stop what you're doing instead of just shooting at her.
But at the very end, it gets very brutal.
Yes.
They are trying to kill her at the end. And she's beating a dude's head in with a rock.
Yeah.
It's not. It starts out cute. She's running from them. She's, leaving, kiss marks on their helmets as she's stealing their jetpacks off their backs as they're flying in them, which was amazing. That was just awesome.
Yeah.
She's free falling out of the helicarrier thing, and when the guy's flying down the jetpack, it goes to snag her, and she basically somehow manages to get herself into the jetpack and pull his ripcord, while leaving a kiss on the visor of his helmet as he goes, flying off with the parachute as opposed to the jetpack and stuff. It was brilliantly drawn as far as the action sequence goes and whatnot.
At the end, like you mentioned, when it gets into the toughest part of the confrontation, the only question I have is, like we mentioned, she was very cheekish about how she did everything. She made sure like the guy has the parachute when she takes the backpack and ejects the seat. But at the end, she pulls the trigger at the guy's head, which implies that she would kill a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent for whatever this is.
Well, because he was gonna kill her. You get to the very end of this. And even at the end of it, when they basically kind of, they're chasing each other, and there's the crash and the explosion, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So clearly, something really bad has happened here. If you aren't away from this explosion, you're going to be a mess, which they kind of are. She's pulling herself out of the muck and sand and whatnot, and she actually goes back to the car to check on him.
Yeah.
She goes back to the car to check on him, and is that a click, or is that sound effect not supposed to be him trying to shoot her?
I think it is. I think it's.
And then she sighs because he tries to, shoot her or whatever. Yeah. And then that's when they start the next fight, and she gets the gun on him and tries pulling the trigger on him. But I mean, I think up until that point, when that crash happens, she's going back to the car, I think, to see if whoever's in there, if she needs to help him out. You know, because she gets down on her hands and knees and looks under the car like she's looking for him. And whatever she's stolen isn't in the car. It's on her.
Yes.
You know, so I think she's being the hero up until that point. And then it's, you know, finally this dude's not taking, you know, no for an answer. And that's when it comes down to, you know, he pulls the knife and tries, you know, stabbing her after she attempts to shoot him. And then, hits him multiple times with the rock. It's not like she conks him once to knock him out. She's
she crushes him.
Yeah, she smashes his head in.
And I guess I think of it as when we see the movies where the good guys trying to escape from the police or the marshals or whatever, and they never want to kill them because they understand they're just law enforcement trying to
do their job,
do their duty. Yeah. So that's the only thing I'm going to say is if I find out she did not kill him with a rock, then I don't know why she would have even pulled the trigger on it.
Well, maybe she was shooting him in the leg or something.
All right, it's possible. Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's kind of.
So that's the only thing. It'll be interesting to see what the story develops then as on, you know, because she's also, I read a really nice series with her where she used to carry around all the agents' names in a drive that she had buried in her stomach, and somebody cut her open to take it. So I mean, she's basically, you know, screwed Shield several times. So it'll be interesting.
Right. I mean, well, she's in the spy business, right? And that's part of telling a spy story is, and in her case, she's been a double agent multiple times, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's part of the genre, right?
Yeah.
The whole whose side is she working for, who's screwing who kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm picking at the very minor things. It was a very enjoyable read, so I definitely don't want anyone to think otherwise. It was a very good book.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I like I said, I really enjoyed it. I mean, as far as just being this wonderful 20 pages of, you know, choreographed fight scene, it was awesome. I immediately gave it to my 15-year-old daughter because she's one of those people that's complaining about there not being a Black Widow movie. She's like, she just thinks it should be 2 hours of her cartwheeling and you know, putting people in scissor headlocks and beating everybody up, and she'd be happy with that. So she was pretty thrilled with this comic and just how smoothly she dispatched everybody like it was cake. So you know, she's on it too. So yeah.
All right, good deal.
I didn't get any other Marvel books. What else did you get?
Old Man Logan.
Oh, right on.
And this continues at the end of the last book. He's passed out on Hawkeye's couch. When he regains consciousness, Kate is there with a weapon, and he's like, "So you're the other Hawkeye?" She's like, "I'm Kate Bishop. I'm not the other Hawkeye."
That's right.
But she wants to team up with him, help him out. She sees all the names on his arm, and the names are, you know, the Butcher, who he's already taken care of, Banner, and that's when he fought in the last one. But he fought Cho as totally awesome Hulk.
Right.
The next one is Mysterio, and then the last one is Red Skull. She's like, those are some kind of serious names to have on your arm.
Yeah.
She does know where Mysterio is, and says, you know, and basically, you know, digs into him until he finally lets her come along. And he's like, so you're not all wondering, you know, because she knows he's old. She goes, so what's up with this old thing? He goes, well, I'm a time, you know, I've gone back through time. She goes, oh, all right. He goes, doesn't that surprise you? He goes, X-Men go through time all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Commentary on them.
It's just what you do. And it was good to see that, you know, as they're talking, he keeps telling her stuff, and she's like, well, that person's already dead, so he can't hurt somebody later. And, you know, this stuff doesn't seem to be your future.
Different timeline.
I mean, this can't be your past, because these things are changed. Because she's like, I got to know one thing. The internet has all these rumors. Who is the new female Thor? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She goes, female Thor. He goes, listen, they change costumes so often. I don't know who anybody is. She's like, no, this would be a big deal. You know. So, I mean, it's things like that he doesn't know who female Thor is. So it's just, it's been amusing. And it's driving him more and more like, what's going on? He doesn't know. Now he's starting to question, is this his future or his past or not? And at the end, he gets confronted by Steve Rogers, Old Man Rogers.
Oh yeah,
And I
nice.
think that's even how they said it in here. It's Old Man Rogers next issue. Because he doesn't want Wolverine just slicing through. And I'm sure he's found out that he's just killed the Butcher.
Right.
So it'll be very interesting to see how this continues along. Beautiful Sorrentino art. I mean, that was the first thing that grabbed me. And the story is just good. I'm just enjoying it. They jump back and forth with things that happen in his crazy future with his family. So for everybody that's read it in the past, they can enjoy it. Everybody who's jumping on it now can just enjoy the other story too.
Cool. And what issue is this?
This is 3.
3.
Yep. And I think Sorrentino says he's already on like 8 or 9. I mean, he has to get ahead of these.
Right. I may have to hunt those down. They sound like fun.
Yeah.
And that's a cool idea. The fact that it's not as simple as he's just going back and fixing his timeline, that he may be not just out of time, he may be like, wrong dimension or whatever as far as.
And I could see with the Secret Wars that may have readjusted everything, and that's how to explain it, is that, his timeline is gone. I mean, he doesn't have to go through that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that does sound interesting.
Yeah. And that is it for Marvel for me. Like I said, I had a short poll, and nothing DC-wise caught my eye, but I'll be interested to see.
I had the one Marvel book this week as far as that goes. Marvel news, is there anything I don't remember seeing?
We just talked about
the Venom
rumors.
Stuff, right?
Yeah, the Venom, yeah.
That they're Sony's working on a movie for Venom?
Yeah. Or it's being bounced around that it's a possibility. So
that seems like a weird movie to me.
Yeah, and I don't know how deep it is, because I mean, we haven't heard anything at all about it except for this little mention. I mean, it's not very far in any kind of production. So
right, they're looking for a writer director and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I know they scrapped the Gambit again. I mean, that one keeps bouncing around, and they keep talking about some other mystery Fox movie that they're going to try and kick something else out X-Men wise or whatever. I can't imagine Fantastic Four.
You think they learn sooner or later, right?
Yeah.
They got to put out a movie every so often just so they can keep the rights to it and not let Marvel get it back and put out a good movie and show them up, right? I mean, that would be the fear.
But I can't imagine just throwing money into a pit for something that, it's, if your last movie didn't take off, why not let them have the rights back? Because obviously you didn't make money on it. So.
Because you don't want anybody else making money out there. It's not just a matter of making your own money. It's a matter of keeping the competition from making money too.
All right.
You just need to get a better corporate mindset, Mike.
Evidently.
It's not a matter of making your own money. You got to screw everybody else in the process, because that's how corporate America works, That's
why I work for non-for-profits.
There you go.
Even when I mowed lawns, evidently I never made a profit, so it worked that same way. So
yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to DC.
Sure.
You say you didn't have any DC books. I picked up a couple. Let's start out with this one, just because, of course, last month was my last Batgirl that was on my poll. But supposedly some significant stuff happened in this issue. So I went to the local chain store and picked up 49, paid full price for it, because I wanted to know what the hell happened, because I kept, as Wednesday morning, these reviews started popping up. And of course, because I'm not reading it now, I have no problem with looking at the reviews or whatever. Yeah. And there was this supposed significant change in the book. And for anybody who hasn't read this or plans to read it, now is about the time you want to quit listening if you don't want it spoiled for you, because I'm going to talk about supposedly what happened in the issues. So the setup for this is Batgirl has been attacked by a villain supposedly called the Fugue, and she's basically kind of in a coma now. Her mind is being attacked by, by the Fugue. She's battling with herself in her head. So Frankie, who is the new Oracle, and she can tap into computers with her mind. Well, Batgirl has a neural implant in her back. It's part of what makes her spine work so she can walk now, as opposed to being stuck in the wheelchair. So she can log in through that implant and kind of project herself inside of Batgirl's mind. She uses the old viral program from an arc ago where there was a Batgirl personality running around in the computers trying to take over Batgirl's life. She kind of uses a debugged version of that to try and hopefully restart Batgirl's mind and help her determine what's real and what's fiction. Because what she's found out is her memories have been slowly getting replaced with false memories. I mean, she's got this guy living in her house named Greg that's supposedly her childhood friend. And up until a week ago, she's never mentioned Greg ever in her entire life. And, nobody knows who he is, kind of a thing. Well, so anyway, Frankie goes in with this computerized version of Batgirl into Batgirl's mind to try and help her out. And they start rooting out fake memories and basically beating them up and getting rid of them is what they're doing. A la the Matrix, kind of a thing. They pull their kung fu out and beat up or whatever. This other personality, Batgirl, is on the verge of going rogue a lot. And Frankie's trying to watch her. She's got a kill switch to kill this computer program, completely erasing her if she doesn't behave herself. Kind of a thing. So anyway, so all this memory's going on. You find out that the guy that's living with them is actually the real villain. He's actually the Fugue. He's actually an old bank robber that threw Batgirl. I mean, the Batgirl threw in prison years ago, kind of a thing. He had some money saved aside as a bank robber, and he's had this equipment built that messes with her mind. And I guess he's been actually doing this a lot for, we don't know exactly how long now. He's basically every so often he'll capture Batgirl, wipe her memory, brag about how he's going to screw with her, and then puts new memories in her head and lets her loose to do stuff. And then he mines her. So he's mining her. He knows who Batman is. He knows who Jason Todd is. He knows who everybody is. Anybody that, because Batgirl's got a photographic memory. Anything Batgirl knows, he now knows. Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, the big thing about the book is as they're running along, and the book is somewhat schizophrenic in the fact that this laundry list of artists, it's like every so many pages is done by a different artist. Babs Tarrs does some. Ming Doyle does some of it. There's just a bunch of different artists in here as she's going through different memories as a different artist doing those bits and pieces. Yeah. I didn't think it worked very well. But anyway, there's one page where they finally figured out that they need to go and root all these evil memories out. And I can't remember the art. I don't remember what the artist's name is. He did an issue of We Are Robins I really liked. I think it's James Harvey. And he has a really stylized, really, I don't even know how to describe it. But anyway, this is the page. And on this page, there's what supposedly are a whole bunch of false memories. And you've got this image of Batgirl falling through the image. And then you've got all these different circles here of different stuff that's going on. And some of it's real and some of it isn't. I mean, it's like, some parts of it, she's like, I'm so glad you're here, my friend, Greg, you're so great, which of course we know is a fake thing. And it says you're not real. There's some stuff about James Gordon Jr. being a good family man, which of course we know isn't real. I mean, because kind of historically, James Gordon Jr. has been an absolute psychopathic, maniac. But there's other things in here where James is, evil. And it's all this stuff, and it's occasionally it keeps saying this isn't real, this is not real, this is not real. And over on this one side, of course, you've got the Joker smiling here, and it says smile. And then you've got these not real here. And this is down here at the bottom is a cemetery, because the next page actually has Barbara Gordon in a shallow grave as she's being buried, and all this horrible stuff is going on and whatnot. So a lot of the people's interpretation of that this page is all this stuff is fake. None of it actually happened. It's all fake plants. So people wrote and made big articles about the fact that they retconned the Killing Joke out of Batgirl's history, which I personally am fine with. That not being part of her history. Originally, it was supposed to be out of continuity. The Killing Joke was. Then at some point they decided it was part of continuity, and of course, Barbara Gordon in the wheelchair and all the Oracle stuff and all the great stuff that came out of that. Whatever. But I mean, I'm not so attached to the Killing Joke that it has to be in continuity or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. The reason I picked the book up is I heard they had taken it out, and I wanted to see how they did it to see if it was done well. I mean, I have no problem with. I mean, that's one of the kind of the beauties of comic books is you can rewrite people's history if you want to make a different story or an interesting story. Just do it in a decent way. This whole fake memory thing, I'm not sure I'm really on board with. If they did really retcon this out. So what part of it is gone? Is it the whole thing? He didn't take her picture. He didn't take the violation as far as what the Killing Joke implies that she was violated. Or was she not crippled at all? If she wasn't crippled at all, how did she meet Frankie? Because this issue is pretty Frankie centric. I mean, Frankie is the hero in this, and how she knows Frankie is she met Frankie at a in the clinic when she was crippled because Frankie has MS, and she was spending some time there too. So
when she was rehabbing,
right? They were both rehabbing together. So if she was never crippled, then how did she meet Frankie? See, her history starts to fall apart. It doesn't like they just took a piece out. You take that piece out, and now you've unhinged what's become a large portion of Barbara Gordon's history. I mean, I don't think the Killing Joke is what makes Barbara Gordon who she is. I think that's a very small piece, and there's a lot more important things about Barbara Gordon, in my opinion. I just know that there's a segment of the Batgirl reading populace that is offended by the Killing Joke and what happened to the Killing Joke, and they'd like to just have it completely expunged. I get that, and like I said, I have no problem with them pulling the Killing Joke out of continuity. It doesn't matter one way or the other to me. I just want the story to make some sort of sense and whatnot. Now, this doesn't 100%, in my opinion, does not 100% cement that didn't really happen, or I don't know what portion of it happened. They kind of leave it, in my opinion, it leaves it very vague. I don't know if they leave it that way, so those people who want to have the continuity still there, they can say it's still there, and those that really don't can celebrate that they've unhinged this new version of Batgirl from this horrible dark past. I see the benefits to both sides to that. For me personally, I don't think this did it. This left it questionable about what really did happen or didn't happen. I don't know now. I've only seen one of the writers comment on that, and that's kind of what he implied was, it could be, whatever. Or by the time this is all done, I mean, the next issue may solidify more what really is her past and what isn't her past. Maybe they'll just get rid of the whole thing. Going into Birthright, they could completely redo the character so none of that ever happened. She was never Oracle. She was never any of those things herself. Yeah. None of that existed. She's always just been the fresh-faced, Batgirl from back in the, 70s and 60s before they ever told the Killing Joke story. I don't know as far as that goes. But I think it's an interesting kind of fan service to the group that clearly, because you could harken back to the whole stink there was over the issue 41, I think, was the issue that the alternate Joker cover had the homage to the Killing Joke, and there of course was all kinds of brutality across the social media spectrum as far as should that cover exist, shouldn't that cover exist, glorifying the violation of Barbara Gordon and all that aspect of it, and clearly was a big hot thing and all of that. And there were clearly a large portion of the vocal fan base that don't want Barbara Gordon associated with that anymore. And so I don't know if that's what the writers did here. Or they decided, you know what, wouldn't it be cool to unhinge that from that? And I get that. Like I said, I just don't know. Like, I just don't know story mechanics wise whether or not this really did that.
Well, but I could see DC wanting everybody to have their cake and eat it too attitude. You know, either way you can go with it.
Yeah.
But I mentioned it just recently in one of my videos that we're seeing a lot of rewriting or re-remembering of these origins. I mean, Martian Manhunter, the very first arc, is that.
Sure.
Floyd Lawton, we just talked about Deadshot in our last week. So, and that's the thing is I read Captain America and Thor, and very often they say, you were told this story, but here's how it really was.
Right.
So I like it definitely for a lot of those characters that have been around for so long that they probably need to clean up or clarify some things.
Yeah, it's definitely a superhero trope. You know, we get a new piece of their past, or none of it's completely written in stone, and they're always flexing it and twisting it or whatever. And like I said, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm just not sure story wise it worked in here. And I think it's curious. And I mean, it's unfortunate that Luke isn't here because Luke read this and he had planned to be here. So we were hoping to talk about it, and I'm not sure exactly where Luke is at. I think Luke's of the opinion that this did nothing. You know, the continuity is still all there. This is all, you know, I mean, I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'll kind of hoke him as far as that goes. I kind of also wanted to talk about, I'm not reading Harlequin. I know he's reading Harlequin. The difference in the fan base and the way they treat Batgirl, and they're trying, and the way they're potentially removing Joker from Batgirl's history, and the way they're going about removing it from Harlequin's. I mean, in that book, she basically, I think the last issue, she kind of beats the hell out of the Joker. And basically says, you know, look, I'm tired of the abuse. I'm tired of because she kind of always kind of has, I mean, that's one of the kind of the darker side to Harlequin's character is that, you know, she's kind of originally introduced as this kind of abused girlfriend kind of a character. And clearly she's more than that to people now. And they're, so trying to help establish that by having her actually finally make a clean break, at least in her own comic, not in the rest of the comics. They aren't reflecting that at all. And clearly I don't think they're reflecting that in the movie either. I mean, I think she's still kind of the damaged girlfriend in the movie. I guess we'll see when the Suicide Squad movie actually comes out. But I don't know. It just seems interesting that they're trying to do it, but the fan base clamors differently around Barbara Gordon and her experience with the Joker versus Harlequin's. Whereas I think in a lot of ways, I think Harlequin's relationship with the Joker is way worse and way more unhealthy than, and I think to celebrate that character, you'd want to have that breakaway happen for the fan base more so than with Barbara. I mean, Barbara had this one horrible incident happen to her. And I mean, and then clearly she's separated from the Joker. So it's like it's good. Whereas clearly Harlequin's had years of abuse. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting the way the two have been treated and whatnot. And I was kind of hoping to get Luke on here. Kind of wanted to have Christina on here too, because she talks about it quite a bit. How, you know, the difference in the way the fan base responds to the two characters, and also in the way the companies respond to the two characters and whatnot.
I did think it was interesting as you were talking about it that now Barbara has a brain backup just like Bruce had one. That there's all these people that just have their minds set up on computer ready to.
But I think in the case of Barbara, I think hers is going to be gone because I think they hit the kill switch on.
Okay.
Well, they kind of melded the two together because they needed to do that to actually figure out how to separate fact from fiction.
Yeah.
And by the end of the book, she's back up and moving again. She's separated the two out, and they're going after the culprit.
All right.
You know, I don't know. I can't see myself picking up issue 50. Who knows though? I may see enough of the internet go, ooh, issue 50 did this, and I'll be an idiot and I'll go pick it up, even though I've I've separated too. Christina's on in the comments, and she says that she thinks that the Harley Quinn's relationship with the Joker is glorified, and so why is it glorified? Not her saying that, I'm saying that. Why is it glorified versus Barbara's thing? Exactly why it's why it is the way it is and stuff. Just kind of interesting. And like I said, no issue with if they decided to. It seems like a cheap way to write it out. Oh, it was just a fake memory. It never happened. But what portion of it didn't happen? To me, it just feels like if they're going to do that, they need to clarify it better because, like I said, once you unhinge that part, the whole. I mean, even the New 52 up until about issue 30 something, she was a recovering, what quadriplegic, paraplegic.
Yeah.
At any rate, not able to walk in a wheelchair. I mean, and then that was part of the new continuity. So to pull that, it almost feels kind of like the whole Spider-Man thing where, it was all a clone, or or J.R. Ewing from back in the old days of the Dallas soap opera where you wake up in the shower having slipped in the shower or whatever, and the whole year is a lie. So, I mean, does this imply that from issue 48 back to the beginning of the New 52, it's all been a lie? It never really happened, kind of a thing. Or even farther, go clear back to, the mid 80s and it's all a lie.
Yeah, that one would be then the Saint Elsewhere, snow globe.
Yes.
That shows how old.
We are.
Yeah.
Saint Elsewhere. What the hell is that?
Yeah, people are Googling that one. Go on, kids, Google that.
Yeah. But it's. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but like I said, there could be a big mess in there too if you don't. I think if you don't do it right, or I'm just not supposed to think about it. I'm just supposed to be excited that. I guess if I'm the fan base that's excited that she's unhinged from that, I just don't care. And I just go, yay, because it's done, right?
Yeah.
So. Other DC books I picked up, Swamp Thing issue 3. Curious, it doesn't say issue 3 of 6 anymore. I don't know if that matters, but it's got a little bit of Zantara in there. What's really funny is I think that a lot of us, we were reading the Charles Soule run of Swamp Thing. It felt like Swamp Thing got duped out of his body a lot. Like, people kept stealing his power, or he gets stuck in some human's body that was about ready to die. That happens in this issue too. And then this is written by, this is written by Wynn. This is written by the original creator of the Swamp Thing. He kind of gets willingly wants to go back to being human, and they make it happen in this issue, not realizing that the other consequences of that was going to be this other thing happening. So I'm still not really excited by the story itself. Jones's art has been awesome, though. I mean, his Swamp Thing is cool. I like his panel layout. It's dark, it's moody, it's really big. I mean, Swamp Thing is just this kind of enormous, ridiculously out of proportion thing that's just perfect for a swamp monster kind of a deal. But yeah, I mean, the story itself, the writing aspect of it, not as bad as some of the other old writers coming back and writing again, but still has some elements that are the old school that I can always continue to talk about when I bring this book up, that I don't like those aspects of that style of writing. If you're a Swamp Thing fan, this isn't a bad book though. But it would not be a book I'd recommend to somebody. Hey, you want to get into Swamp Thing? This would not be the book that I'd recommend. Go get some of the good stuff, not this. But and the other DC book I picked up was Midnighter issue 10. Got Suicide Squad in this issue. He gets into another brawl with the Suicide Squad in this, minus the guy that took him down and got him captured in the first place. He's off doing something else, so he ends up going up against the Parasite and Deadshot and Harley Quinn, and it's an awesome fight. It's really cool. Most of the book is done by Aiko. Part of it's done by somebody else. But the person who does the other person who's doing the art, he mimics ACO's art a lot. So it does the same sort of like small panel work that we saw, Mike, when you picked up the first issue where it had that lots of little panels of the action. That kind of stuff is set up in this. So it worked really cool. He's captured by the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller is grilling him because, of course, he blew up. Amanda Waller had this toy, and Midnighter wrecked it, and she's mad at him. So she's going to basically use Midnighter because that's what she does. She takes evil things and uses them right. She thinks Midnighter's evil. The entire time that she's talking, that Midnighter is talking to her, every time she blinks, he has been vibrating the chair that he's bolted down to, and has slowly unbolted the chair. And the guards that are around him, he ends up wiping all the guards out. Amanda runs away. He gets loose and he goes after the Suicide Squad because they're meeting a scientist that used to work for the Garden, along with the Gardener, where Midnighter was created and all these other weapons are created at. So he wants to get rid of that guy. And the Suicide Squad is supposed to protect him because he's making stuff for Amanda Waller now. So yeah, it's Midnighter versus the three of the Suicide Squad. Parasite jumps to get him first. He kicks the teeth out of Parasite and actually snags one of the teeth, throws it, and basically KOs Harley Quinn with one of the teeth, throws it and hits her in the head like a bullet and drops her. And then he goes toe to toe with Deadshot. And of course, Deadshot's just hotter than hell and wants to shoot him. So he's like shooting off rounds, and Midnighter's bouncing around because of course he can't hit Midnighter because his supercomputer. Until the very last second, he actually plugs. He actually shoots Midnighter. Midnighter falls down because he's got a bullet to the chest. And he's like, I knew I'd get you. And Midnighter the whole time has been saying, look, I've done this a million times. I know I'm going to get you. You're going to yell and scream when I get you. But anyway, he shoots him. He falls down. And basically, Deadshot kind of straddles him, laughing, rub it in his face. See, I knew I'd get you. And Midnighter heals pretty fast. He reaches up and grabs a hold of both of Deadshot's hands and crushes them, uses his super strength and just crushes them into noodles. And of course, Deadshot's like, because his hands are destroyed. He's like, see, I told you you'd scream. He basically let himself get shot so he'd get close enough to him. Downside is what he didn't know was his Parasite has sucked away his healing powers. So this bullet he took to the chest is really screwing him up.
Yeah.
They leave him on a helicopter to get blown up in the sky, and we don't know what happens at the end of it. I think it's kind of a bummer this book is going to end. It's cool. It's a cool action, beat 'em up, violent kind of a book that does have some interesting story going on in it too. It's a shame with the Rebirth. This is one of those kind of odd books that isn't going to make it. I want to see Orlando, the writer, do some other work on some other stuff. I'm hoping he gets a gig somewhere else with DC so I can see what else he writes, how, because I've been really getting a kick out of this. I'd be curious to see what else he might write and what kind of stories could he tell or whatnot. Because this has been a lot of fun, So that's it for my DC books. I only got 3 this week. So, DC news. I know that there's some conversation going on with the whole. They've been doing some interviews of creators for some con type thing that they were doing on Twitter or some video chat sort of a thing. I'm not sure exactly what it was at, but I know just from watching Twitter that Jim Lee was on and he was talking about some things, and he kind of let loose that Williamson, Rob Williamson, the guy who's writing Martian Manhunter right now, is going to be the new writer on Suicide Squad. Which is kind of a bummer. That means that the Tim Seeley Ferrero Suicide Squad that we're getting right now, they're basically just telling a story and they're done, right? I mean, they're going to tell us an arc and it'll be done. So, I mean, I guess one thing is hopefully this is going to be cool and fun, this arc we're getting, but we know it's not the team going forward, which is kind of a bummer if that's the case, because I was kind of excited to maybe see a long-term story, out of Seeley, on the book. I don't know. We also, they talked about the $2.99 price point. They confirmed that no, the page count isn't going to be less. It'll be two books of 20 pages. So they're not going to, they're not going to short us. because they're going $2.99, we're not going to get a 15-page book instead or something like that. So yeah, there's that. What else? What else is there news-wise?
I was trying to think otherwise.
Well, there's the Sandman stuff. I don't know if that's independent or if it's DC. I'll talk about it now too. Of course, they've been working on putting out a Sandman movie. I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name. He was going to be the actor and director of it.
Is it Gordon Levitt? Was it?
Yes, him? Gordon Levitt was the guy who was going to be doing it. He backed out because the way the studios changed, because DC Entertainment changed who their subsidiary studio people were for all the stuff, and because Vertigo is a branch of that, they got moved to a different studio. When they got moved to that different studio, that studio has a different vision of what the story should be than what he did. It sounds to me like he wanted it to stay truer to the book.
Yeah.
Maybe the new studio had a different vision what they want to do, and so he thought it was in his best interest just to walk away because it was too frustrating to try and find common ground to make the movie. So not to say that the movie's dead. It's just I think it's taken quite a few steps backwards when you lose your main producer, director, actor that was going to be in it. The person who was kind of heavily spearheading. I know that Neil Gaiman still has some attachment to it and whatnot. And funnily, there were some people on Twitter that were giving Neil Gaiman kind of a hard time about, gee, isn't it too bad you lost the rights to Sandman? He never had the rights to Sandman. That was 26 years ago.
Oh.
And they didn't give out rights for anything like that back then. I still don't think Vertigo gives people media rights to their stuff, or they do. I think like with Jason Aaron, when he wrote Scalp a few years ago, he gets the media rights back after, I can't remember, like 10, 15 years kind of a thing. Right. Is the earliest he has the possibility of getting them back. So I'm sure it was a great deal for Neil Gaiman at the time. Obviously, I mean, look where the guy's at now in his life. He's not hurting for nothing. And Sandman is really what put him on the map. So, whatever. I thought it was funny that people were like acting like he screwed up and made some bad contract. He didn't. I'm sure he had an awesome contract back then. I mean, but that's where they were then as compared now. I mean, if Jack Kirby was still alive, you wouldn't be on the internet scolding him for having a bad contract, because that was the contract that existed at the time,
Well, and I think we've seen so often with independent books, it's just really tough for anybody to get that kind of power. I mean, we've seen a lot of these superhero team books that have failed, and they weren't bad or anything. It's just that, I think the general populace looks to the big two. They want the comfortable names. So it's just really tough for a lot of those guys to have rights. So
yeah. So anyway, I thought it was kind of amusing. I can't think of any other DC news. The big things are going to come in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
25th, 24th, around there. That weekend is when the big stuff's going to happen for DC, when we start finding out those people there. Just as a break from the normal conversation, I'm kind of watching the comments. I can't keep up with them all. But Ryan, I don't know what your hang up is with the fact that that Tom King used to work for the CIA. I mean, I don't know why you would possibly think that he is using his CIA voodoo to manipulate us, the comic book readers, to whatever message the CIA wants. There aren't enough of us reading his books. Even if his book was the most popular book on the shelf, there's not enough of us reading that book for whatever CIA influence he has to change the way the world thinks or anything. Just saying. It feels very tinfoil hat to me to continue every week to talk about Tom King in the comments, and the fact that, of course, because he worked for the CIA, he still has to vet his stuff. If he's talking CIA stuff, he has to vet it through them. That's just how the country works. That somehow that means that he's doing something sneaky. seems a little tinfoil hat to me. Just saying. And speaking of Tom King, let's talk that CIA heavily influenced book, Sheriff of Babylon, issue number 4.
Yeah, I did think the comment here, another fantastic depiction of violence as an aspect of business rather than an atrocity of life. I thought that was kind of interesting on here because it's really getting to be about Sophia's story. And I didn't realize it until I think about this issue that, Christopher really seems to be such a secondary character and such a weak character.
Ugh.
And Sophia is just amazing.
He's walking blind, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, right at this point, he is the most clueless character in the entire book.
Yeah.
The kid selling fake rugs to walk on is more clued in than he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he is clueless, which I guess is okay, because I don't know about you, I haven't spent any time in the Middle East. The most I know about the Middle East is clearly what the main media tells me about the Middle East, to be quite honest, as a whole. So I'm kind of him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's okay that I'll be him, clueless, and I can see these other people doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, and he almost smokes that kid since the kid's like, oh, wait a minute. He's like reaching around and kid,
dropping the F-bomb and over and over again. Cause of course,
Yeah, they can't communicate. But just Sophia starting out this book too, with this beautiful story that she's telling this doctor who is obviously also oblivious to her. Like, I am going to take care of you and you're going to leave. And I don't think anything of you, because she's basically told him this whole story, and then it's like, and do you have any questions about your medical check? And it's like, oh,
Well, but at the same time, I think that's a way to another way for us to get a sense of who she is.
Yes, yeah.
And despite her American upbringing, she is still very proudly Iraqi.
Yeah. And that's what I think I like, is this is telling us a story of culture, because they are doing and dealing with a life that I can't even conceive and explain. Because I definitely don't want to jump right to the end of the book, but as the guy explains how he knows Sophia,
right?
I mean, it's just something that blows my mind. I'm just like, they have this whole other story that I am barely catching on to.
Right.
But I'm catching up to it, and I just love it. I mean, it definitely was a very solid book. So
yeah, the web of how everybody's entangled with each other is very heavy and really serious. I mean, it's not like, oh, I just sell this guy stuff. Everything is way beyond that. It's like you said, our ex-Iraqi police officer, the way he knows her is very diabolical, the way he knows her, and somehow they still operate with each other. And I almost get the sense that she knows.
Oh yeah, I would have to think so.
I mean, because he was a well-named, he was a high-level operating Iraqi policeman in Saddam Hussein's regime. So clearly everybody kind of knows who he is. I'm betting he was part of the Ba'ath Party, so I mean, that either makes him really powerful, or it makes him like enemy of the state still.
Which
and
we gathered too from his, interaction and his traveling back.
Right. And his wife's pretty freaking hardcore too. And I liked her whole delivery. We're not going to fight them like children. We're not going to fight them like men. We're going to fight them like women. And that's after 2 pages ago, she's gunning 2 dudes down with a shotgun like it was nobody's business. So it's like, wow.
Yeah. But that's what I feel like, as he's being transported by these guys who kidnapped him and he's asking to go to the mosque. It was very interesting, because if this had been a mafia story, which is what I feel I'm more accustomed to, it would have gone down a whole different way. So
Yeah.
I did think that that's what I like about this is it's given us a twist on a story that I've never heard before.
Mhm.
Um, I this is also a lot easier to read than what I thought it was going to be. As we first started out, I thought this was going to be a lot more emotionally tough to read, and
Right.
it's not. It's not so deep. It's not so ugly as what I expected.
Right. Well, yeah. Every issue hasn't been issue 2,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And so that's good. No, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a few more of those along the way.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Um,
But I guess I'm just thankful
her
it didn't
losing a
get in there.
pregnancy, the kind of
Yes.
that whole conversation there, that was kind of a surprise. I mean, I'm assuming that's what she was going to have the extra conversation with Christopher about.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep.
Or was she going to tell him at all? I mean, what would the purpose of telling him after the fact? Because she must have known she was pregnant.
Yes.
Because she knew she knew about how far along she was.
Yeah.
So why would she tell him now, though? I don't know. There's a lot of manipulation going on, and you're just not sure. To some degree, I'm not sure exactly which emotions are real emotions and which emotions are part of the game that's being played.
Yeah.
Is she really being played? Because it almost felt like she was caught off guard by the whole, when she went to Christopher's place and that guy was there and them saying there's this extra attack going on. And she seems frustrated by the fact that there are insurgents there messing in Iraq. She's just trying to get Iraq straight in her mind, and now the insurgents are there. Does she really not know that's going on? I mean, I'm just not sure. I'm not 100% sold on exactly how much she knows or she doesn't know as far as, what's the game. I'm really enjoying it. It's a great book as far as being really intriguing. But lots of questions.
As you see, my book keeps flopping back and forth. It's because when I grabbed it too tight, I also left another fingerprint on this. So once again, I did send out a tweet about how I like some books on how good their paper is and how the big two seem to be failing on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely an excellent book, minus the paper quality. So.
You want to talk about the other book when you're talking paper quality?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. So the thing I tweeted about was Johnny Red, and this is definitely. I mean, it almost feels like The Island. It feels thick. It feels heavy, high grade paper. And this is, it's a $4 book, so I'll mention that too. Titan Comics. They do a lot of Doctor Who and a lot of where they buy off of stories that have finished on TV and now are being continued in comics. Garth Ennis, is writing a story about a an English pilot who's fighting for the Russians. At the end of the previous story, all of his people his squadron have flown into Germany on a secret mission. He's been left behind. They're going to find out what's going on. And there is a beautiful air combat because he's cruising along and the Herrmeister or whoever is the top German pilot is teaching this young guy. And he's like, there he is. There's an easy guy to hit. We got advantage on him. And as he gets in, the Herrmeister figures out, uh-oh, that's Johnny Red, and that's not a good thing. You're going to get killed, rookie. And the kid won't do it, and so they lead him into the clouds, and you can't tell what's going on before the German pilot can interact. The plane comes flying back, all shot up right at him, smashes his canopy so he can't eject. He can't see, and he's going down, and Johnny's like, I'm not going to shoot you. You're defenseless, and I'm going to explain to you how to get down so you can land. And next time I encounter you in the air, I'm going to shoot you out of the air. So it has that, honor among fighters kind of feel.
The warrior thing, right.
Yeah. And so, there's things like that. I think there's certain motifs. I talked with a coworker who lent me his Enemy Ace, 1960s, 70s comic.
Sure.
I see these motifs that are popping up, like honor among combatants, hidden bases everywhere. Because as Johnny's flying, he finds his hidden base, lands, sneaks into it. I mean, you heard the plane go over. You had to know that there's this rogue plane going, but he still sneaks into the base. He gets in there. shoots up. The whole place is going crazy. Now Russians and Germans are shooting each other, and it's just all this wildness. And then at the very end, I'm going to spoil it for everybody. I don't know how many people are out there reading it, but he shoots all the guards, and the guy who's left is this nice little gentleman with a very Chaplin mustache, just standing in front of him. So it was very interesting to see that. I'm just like, that's kind of interesting, but I know that was a big Captain America thing, and a lot of World War II comics is
Right.
Hitler was evidently everywhere, and,
Right.
and everybody took a punch at Hitler, and so
Sure.
this will be very interesting to see what they do with this. So.
Yeah. Right on.
Garth Ennis is also writing a nice, wonderful comic also about the Tuskegee Airmen also.
Right.
And
For that's is that an Aftershock Comics? I think it is.
That might be, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would be tempted after this to maybe check that one out in trade or pick up old issues. But Johnny Red, I'm sure it'll come out very quickly in trade. This is issue number 5. And, there's still obviously 1 or 2 more that need to come out for this book, or maybe they'll continue it for a while. Either way, I think it's an excellent book if you like World War II, flying, or just looking for something different. So,
wow, cool. I picked up Deadly Class. This is issue number 19, part of the Die For Me story arc that's currently going on, where most of the School of Assassins are out to kill the rats, and basically most of our main characters are the rats. This is mostly Marcus and his 2 friends right now. They're being chased down by Victor, who's the big Soviet kid whose dad is like the top KGB assassin. And so, of course, they're trying to prove themselves. And the beginning of the book is really awesome. It's in a record store. This is 1988. And in the record store, there's a guy there. He's buying a B-52s album. And the guy that's working the record store counter, clearly your stereotypical 1988 heavy metal dude, bandana and the jeans jacket vest and the works. And he's like, dude, you have a girlfriend, right? And you're buying this for your girlfriend, because I have to seriously question your taste in music if you're buying this otherwise. And so it's this, the whole first page is this long conversation about how great the B-52s are, about how they're nonconformists, they're mashing all this stuff together. Plus you got these two hotties in beehive hairdos talking about everything that's great about the thing. The guy goes on and on and on, gets to the end of the sale, and he's like, look, you just give me the money, I'm selling you the record, and we're going to call this done. Because the guy's also talking about how, all the heavy metal guys are all the same. It's the heavy metal and the punk people. You're just wearing uniforms. You look like every other heavy metal guy that's out there. Just a funny conversation, because I remember 1988 and I remember those conversations. I remember staying in record stores and those kind of conversations going on. So I laughed my ass off through that part of it quite a bit. And of course, then everybody in the record store gets wrecked, because one of the kids is running through it while the Russians are chasing after him, shooting him. And they're just machine gunning everything down as they're trying to shoot the rat. And he's weaving through people, and all the people are getting cut down. So it's this Wes Craig, the artist, one of those people who captures action really, really well. His panel work, just the movement of where the characters are going and how they're racing through buildings and jumping out windows, and the bullets cutting people down as it's going along. Just amazing stuff. And of course, then about mid-comic, we get into some conversations about dads, about how screwed up our dads make us, about how we want to do this, trying to impress our dads between some of the characters that are in this. The thinking now is they're trying to beat the school and stay in the school, because if they can wipe out enough of the people that are hunting them down, they'll get to stay in the school and they'll actually graduate with honors. Now they're thinking maybe it's just time to run, leave town, get the hell away, kind of a thing. And there's some backstabbing looks like it's going to be happening in this, and so it'll be interesting to explore that. You think you finally found your tight knit friends, and then somebody stabs you in the back and breaks your heart. And so curious to see how that all plays out. Just a brilliant book. The artwork in it is beautiful. Coloring's great by Boyd. I think that Boyd does a great job of coloring. I mean, I will say this, that I think he's following the map that was put out by Lou Ridge, because Lou Ridge was the first colorist on this book. And I think he's just kind of following that map of this is how we color these kinds of scenes. Unless of course it's Wes Craig, the artist, is saying, hey, this is how we should color it. Then I guess he's just following Wes Craig's map. But still just a really great book. I really love it. It's just got a great, a great vibe to it. So yeah. I just really dig it.
Yeah. And sorry, what issue is that again?
That is 19.
All right.
There's 3 or 4 trades out of that book now. So,
and it, it's always the thing with school books. I always wonder about like how long would they continue? Kind of like the Harry Potter idea. Once he graduates, or how long can you be in the school idea? Will he jump from the school idea to just being on his own?
They could run the book past that.
Okay.
I'm laughing because I noticed in the comments that Comics to Comics is saying, I don't like a comic book that encourages dropping out of school. Better fix that when they make the movie.
Yeah.
Or the AMC or the AM series, that's just horrible. But I can see it going on past that. I mean, because depending on what they do, I mean, if they actually leave school, clearly it's going to continue on in the fact that the people from the school are probably going to keep hunting them down, because I don't think you walk away from this school without either becoming part of the system or dead. I mean, to me, it seems like that's your options. So I don't know. I mean, I think it could go on quite a while. They're technically like sophomores or juniors. So, and we're on issue 19. I mean, we're still in the first year of school, I think. This is the first year.
Sure.
So, it's not like they end this year, they're graduating. They get to go on to the next year, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, I think it could go on for quite a while. And then the school setting is, to some degree, it's just the backdrop. It's and then clearly there's the assassin end of it, but there's so much more going on than it's simply being, these are a bunch of kids that, are in a school of assassins,
right,
a la Harry Potter. I mean, because their social makeup is ugly like high school is, but then it's been ratcheted up to like 11 because of the whole assassination thing and just how far-fetched that a lot of their lives were going into this.
Sure.
Really like the book. I think it's pretty awesome. I told Brandon McHammer that I would talk about this book, The Discipline. This is issue number 1. New book by Peter Milligan and Leonardo Fernandez, Chris Peters on colors. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the exact same creative team that was on the Vertigo book, The Names. If it's not the same artist, he has the same style. First off and foremost, I absolutely love the art in it. I love the style of it. I love the way it's the vibe of it, the feel of it, the way the panel work, the presence that the artists use. I just really, really enjoyed the heck out of it. As Terrence is saying, Comic Crack in the comments, oh, here we go, 50 Shades with demons. And I hate to use that comparison, but to some degree it is it is accurate in that there's clearly sexual content in this. There's naked bodies. There's definitely people having sex. There's this kind of weird fine line depending on what your degree, what your interpretation of some of the stuff is, that either it's sexual assault or it's a kink. And it kind of walks that line that 50 Shades of Grey supposedly walks. I have my own opinion about 50 Shades of Grey about whether or not it walks a line, but clearly some people thinks that it does. I'm intrigued. But I'm intrigued as soon as you put sex and monsters in a book. I have to admit, I tend to be intrigued to some degree with it as far as that goes. I think one of the storytelling aspect problems of it is they kind of they're wanting to hide all the cards and not tell you what's going on. But at the same time, they're wanting to show you all the cards so you know enough of what's going on that you stay in the book. I think they're kind of running this fear of if they don't tell you enough, you're going to look and everybody's going to go, I don't know what the hell I'm reading. I don't know what's going on. There's some weird stuff going on. And because people are so impatient and don't want to like read to find out what's going on, they kind of want the answers now, that they almost to some degree give you. I almost felt it to me like they almost gave too much in some ways. They put too much in this first issue. Basically, there's this woman, she's living a life, she's been married for, 4 to 7 years. It's been at least 4 years since her husband has touched her or looked at her in any way that seems remotely romantic in any way. She's got lots of money, but her sex life is zero. Her romantic, there's just nothing. And every day she goes and looks at the picture Gothic. I'm pretty sure the picture's name is Gothic. It's a painting. Basically, it's Venus laid out across the bed with a satyr kind of sitting on the edge of the bed, kind of leering at her. It's a pretty famous painting. She actually goes to the museum like every day and looks at that. That's her escape into sexual fantasy, basically, is that. She has a sister who's taking care of her sick mom. The sister doesn't like her because she's got money, and the rest of the family's kind of dirt poor. But this guy is supposedly kind of stalking her. He's following her all the time, knows she comes there to this picture every day. And he hits on her in a definite aggressive and probably inappropriate sort of way. Basically says, hey, I know you come here every day. I know you're looking for something more. He gropes her, which she's shocked by, but doesn't say knock it off or anything like that. And he basically says, hey, meet me in this place on this date and we'll see what happens, kind of a thing. And she goes either because she's truly intrigued or her own personal life is just that desperate or whatever. But she goes and she ends up meeting the guy. Things get hot and heavy. Some weird mumbo jumbo stuff starts to go on. A monster leaps through the window, busts through this window and attempts to attack them. I mean, it's a big, shaggy kind of a monstrous kind of thing. Our male lover, for lack of anything else, he refers to her as a discipline occasionally. He kind of runs away. He drops some weird chemical in his eye, and he like, I don't know if he's hallucinating or he actually travels to someplace else. And they're like in like a Greek architecture kind of a place, and he's talking to some council members or something else. So we don't really, so it's kind of confusing. I mean, I'm not confused to the point where I don't like this. I'm not gonna read it. I mean, I've heard that some people are describing the book as flat. I don't think it's flat. It's not like what was that Winter World book we all bought a week or so ago, that Image book?
Winterblind or?
Yeah, Snowblind or Snow whatever.
Yeah.
That book was flat.
Yeah.
This book isn't flat. I mean, or maybe I just don't think it's flat because, of course, like I said, it has sex and monsters in it, so that makes it not flat for me. I don't know, but it almost felt like they gave us too much in the first issue without giving us enough of anything. Like almost in the story, they should have not shown us the whole drip the stuff in your eyes and talk to the council kind of a thing, because that felt like too much thrown into the first issue. Right. I'm going to keep getting it for a while. I'm a big Pete Milligan fan. I read anything that he writes. The only thing that I've truly been disappointed with is he's also writing the New Romancers for Vertigo. I'm not enjoying that at all. But I know lots of his stuff, it takes a while for it to get going. It may take 6 issues for the payoff to really start to land somewhere or whatnot. So I'll keep reading it because like I said, I really enjoyed the artwork. I love the style of it as far as that goes. And I trust like I said, with the exception of that one title, I trust M. Milligan to give me some sort of an interesting story that I'm going to question, or I'm going to be and thinking about away from the book later on. So,
does the artwork match the cover?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got to imagine it's really difficult for these writers, like Clean Room and all them, to give us just enough weird and just enough explanation.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some pictures that I can show that.
Yeah, well, I can imagine after everything else you said.
It won't flag my video immediately for showing stuff I shouldn't be showing. Yeah, there's really no way I can show.
That's
well, okay, so here's the monster. Here's a full page splash of the monster shattering through the window. Don't look too low because she's topless down there. But I love that shot because it's an overhead, view of this. They're 3 or 4 stories up, and this monster is crashing through the window and spoiling their late night fun. But no, like I said, I really like it. Well, here's a scene of her in Central Park. I don't know how blurry my camera is. Her just running along.
No, it's good. Yeah.
And I just like the style of it. I mean, they're not. This artist has a style, and so it comes through. Not everybody's the same body type. People's faces are different. Their faces clearly emote expressions. It's all the kind of stuff that to me makes good art. The paneling is interesting. It's not the same grid layout. You've got grid layouts that are like this. So it's just a lot of different aspects of stuff going on. I really, like I said, can't show too much of it because it really is M for mature. There's no doubt about that as far as
keep that on the top shelf, kiddies.
Yeah. And there is, just as an offshoot, there is some more controversy about this cover. Emerald City Comic Con is coming up at the beginning of April. All of the Emerald City Comic Con badges are images from Image Comics. My 3-day passes are Saga images. The Sunday 1-day pass is this cover. And so there are people like going, why the hell are you depicting sexual assault on my Comic-Con pass? And this, I don't think this picture is necessarily assault, but it's to some degree it's up to interpretation as to exactly how you want to view that. I don't know. It's like I said, it's one of those kind of dicey things that each person's going to have their own opinion on what, how that all works and whatnot. Clearly, staying in a museum, him unsolicitedly groping her would be considered sexual assault. Except she's not complaining. I don't know. At what point in your relationship is that? I don't know. Like I said, that gets all over the map as far as what is that really? Yeah. Got any other books, Mike?
No, that is it for me. So I'm here to enjoy.
Let's see. The Unfollow, which is also incidentally written by Williams. I believe the same Williams that writes Martian Manhunter and will be writing Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
A great book. In this issue, the old man the guy with the cancer that's giving out all the money, he supposedly has died. They're shipping everybody off the island. They'll start getting their money. They're going to get the first $100,000 installment right away. And then they'll start getting the money thereafter that installments really quickly. If somebody passes away, their money will come back to the main account and then get redistributed out to whoever's left. We're down to 138 out of 140 people. Most of the story is told through the eyes of David. He was the New York kind of street kid. Crazy stuff is going on with him. There's in the beginning of the story and the end of the story, there is a leopard that is chatting with us. You actually literally talking at us, the reader, but also engages in the characters in the book at times. It's really interesting. The art by Dowling, I just think it continues to be amazing stuff as far as that goes. This is definitely one of those stories that's, yeah, just here's this crazy guy in the mask. He wears this gold mask with this big hair coming off of it and whatnot. There's this kind of, occasionally this mythical stuff kind of happens. Like supposedly that mask changes shape. Let's see. Where's some other, I just really like the art. I like the line drawing, the amount of texture that's put into it. Here's our Japanese occult leader who chopped off his legs with a samurai sword sometime in the past. So he's kind of quite the character. Was walking around naked. He actually showed up on the island wearing a wedding dress. Now he was walking around naked. Some of the people thought they made him uncomfortable, so now he's wearing a G-string instead, which is just as uncomfortable, but funny nonetheless. But yeah, like I said, we have this gorgeous cat, this gorgeous leopard at the beginning that's talking to us, kind of telling us what's going on in a sense. But then the cat becomes part of the story as he's attacking and drowning this guy, but then it becomes hands. Just really, it's one of those stories. It's a long story. Interesting stuff happens. But I think it's going to be one of those kind of, there's going to be a payoff down the road. I think it's just really kind of intriguing, this whole buildup. And I continue to love these covers that are, I mean, there's the little where you speak into your phone. There's the ear hole. Yeah. So it is a screen. And in this case, it's a screen of the Japanese guy holding his phone up at us with the gun on it. It's a cool book. I'm really kind of enjoying it. It's really intriguing.
Art-wise, it does look just super smart. Like you have to think in layers on that. So I think it's cool.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, haven't talked about Survivors Club for a month or so. So this is Survivor Club, issue number 6. Great cover by, even you can't see the shine on there, by Bill Sekowitz. Mobs flying off out of this guy's hair, almost like his hair is there, and then these bugs flying away, which does kind of tie into one of the stories. One of the characters back in 1987, when all these horrible, something happened to this group of people, the Survivors Club. We didn't hear about a couple of them, what happened to them, what makes them part of the Survivors Club. We never got to hear the story. In this, we get to hear the story of the guy who's got the holes in his neck that looks like he's been attacked by a vampire. Come to find out, it's actually a spider lady. She's called like Lady Bone or something like that. As a kid, when he was living in Puerto Rico, he was kind of like a spy kind of kid. He thought he was a spy. So he's just poking around. There's this crazy lady that lives next door. He thought she was out of town, so he kind of breaks into her house and is creeping around. He's being the detective. He's got his little recorder, and he's talking up into it, basically doing the journal log, blah, blah, blah. He goes into this back room, and in the back room is a whole bunch of people hung upside down, bodies. But the people are all alive, and they're all bugs start crawling out of them. Like they're living gestations for bugs. It's like bugs were implanted in their flesh, and then they kind of burrow out and pop out. He gets attacked as this kid by this bone lady. She stabs him in the neck, and now he leaks bugs periodically. And the reason he's become an EMT is he thought, because he's trying to look for her now as an adult because he wants to get rid of her. She's this evil monster. And he just assumes that everybody else is talking about their evil monsters is somehow his evil monster. And they got the story wrong as far as he's concerned. But he becomes an EMT because he thinks, being an emergency person, he's going to find the other people who are infected quicker so he can get rid of this lady.
Yeah.
But like I said, he occasionally spills bugs out of his wounds. Okay. Which is creepy. So we kind of got two storylines going on right now. We got the kind of haunted house thing that's going on. And then we have the whole possessed video game thing going on. And I don't know how the two are going to intersect at some point. But as far as the video game part goes, one of our main characters who got affected by this video game when she was really little has gone to like the Oregon coast. There's a video game convention there, and the only video game that's being played is this evil video game. She has shown up, and she is going to beat this game to death and hopefully break it and it'd be over with, because she never got to complete the game, and that's why it's haunting her, and it's haunting everybody else. So she's gonna destroy it. And it kind of ends with her getting ready to do that battle. And the other one with the haunted house, our kid that has the imaginary friend that's not really imaginary, that imaginary friend has possessed a bunch of people, has pulled them all back into the Muskegee house, which is basically the equivalent of the Amityville horror house. They're now all stuck back there in the horror show that's this kind of spirit world, and things are going nuts there. It's an interesting book. I'm enjoying it. It would be almost nigh impossible for me to like actually recommend this book to a bunch of people, unless you're like a really fan of just kind of weird, semi-horror, or you're a fan of Ryan Kelly's artwork, and then it's probably worth the read. But it's kind of, it's an odd book. It continues to be kind of a strange book. Like every time I talk about it, that it is, I'm liking it, but like I said, it's kind of it's an odd kind of a thing. So,
yeah.
Exodus: The Life After, issue number 4, continues to be a hilarious book. Shame on you, Mike, for having dropped it.
Yes.
This issue is great. Hemingway basically he's taken over as God now. Him and the potato have merged. He's in charge of the infinite verse. He's going to clear things up because it's running too much on chaos theory. Hemingway finds that far too uncomfortable. I mean, romantically, it sounds great to know that the world is just running on entropy. It's just doing whatever it's going to do. But the reality of that is really uncomfortable, and he wants there to be a grand design. So he's going to help make sure there's a grand design.
Okay.
So he goes about wandering through heaven to get the grand design working. While he's doing that, Esmeralda and the woman that kind of broke Jude out of his shell, in the first part of this book, have decided that they're going to go find Jude. And they're gonna beat him up until he snaps out of it, because he's back to being a drone, just kind of living the day-to-day life. Wakes up late on his uncomfortable sofa, goes to work in his uncomfortable office, gets paid an uncomfortable wage, then goes home to fall asleep on his uncomfortable sofa, to get up, rinse, repeat over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Hemingway goes into heaven. He's at this place. He's going to square one of these heavens away, and he runs into another version of Hemingway. Is there, and you're like, okay, that's going to be interesting. Then it cuts back to them beating Jude up. They find Jude, and they're like beating him up. They actually break him out of his shell. The woman that's there, Esmeralda's mother, in the first, probably the second trade, end of the last arc, chopped Jude's head off.
Okay.
Because she felt like he screwed her life up. She realizes now that in the process of screwing her life up, she actually made everything better for her and her daughter. But she didn't know that at the time. So she runs up to him and basically hugs him and says, thank you. And in the process of all that, it kind of breaks this cycle he's stuck in again. And there's this great page in it where she hugs him, and we get this awesome double page spread with all of these panels of kind of a cycle through of everything that happened in the first story arc and the Life After first story arc. All is in this first flash here. And he's basically kind of brought up to speed. He's broken out of the charm that's on him again. And he's kind of like, well, what's happening? Hey, you cut my head off. And she goes, well, I did say I was sorry. He's like, oh yeah, I guess you did. But, and you kind of think, oh, everything's getting to be all nice and whatnot. And about that time, Hemingway, who was looking really nice in a nice suit, is running at him. His suit is smoking. It's all tore up. And he's screaming, run, run. And they're like, what? Why? And he runs past him and he goes, well, I found a piece of heaven and it didn't go exactly the way I planned on it. And the final page is he's running. They're kind of looking back, and the heavenly host is coming to get them. And in this book, the heavenly host is these extremely violent six-winged angels and these giant purple blobs that just eat all of reality. That's the heavenly host. They basically come along, and any slice of heaven or any slice of limbo that gets too rogue, they just go in and violently annihilate it. And that's what's happening now. So the issue ends with them basically, oh shit, as they're running to get away from it. Just a great book. This is definitely a book. If you're not reading it in singles, I highly recommend the trades roll out. Pick them up. That's smart. It's funny. It has these great poignant moments in it. It has plenty of moments that you laugh just because it's kind of ridiculous. I really think that even if you're, I don't really feel like they're really making fun of like any religion in particular. I don't even think they're making fun of religion necessarily, just kind of, questioning some of the afterlife and how might that work is kind of what goes on in this. I mean, I guess you could be offended by the fact that they kind of imply that Christianity, God is a potato, some interstellar potato that does hit up Mary, and they do have a child. Child in this case isn't named Judas; it's named Jude. I mean, not Judas. Jeez, Jesus. It's named Jude, but I don't know. I think it's funny. It's funny. It's poignant. It's amusing.
Yeah. I think it was the surrealism of
Sure.
it was a little too much. At least at that time, it wasn't what I was looking for.
Yeah, and I know. I'm just picking on you, Mike. I know at the time you also were reading what was it? The
Devlers.
The Devlers, which seemed more dark, more sinister, more interesting as far as what was being presented. Written by the same writer. This one was kind of, goofy and cheeky, right? And that one seemed like he was going to be dealing with some meaty stuff.
Yeah, it fizzled out to nothing. I couldn't believe that. Because that last issue took like 5 months. It was all together, and then that last issue, 5 months. Oh, yeah. I probably should have just stuck out with Life After.
Oh, but like I say, you don't know. And like I said, this one, has a different complete timbre to it and whatnot. And maybe it isn't your thing too. I mean, and that's cool too. I just I find it really amusing. It's got enough poignant things in to go, oh, yeah, that's cool. That really makes you kind of think about, life and what kind of direction might you want to take and whatnot. And then there's this like the bunny god that's in it that is just ridiculously cute and funny and horrible stuff happens. So I don't know. It's a mix of both things. So yeah. Revival issue number 37. Another pretty good issue. This issue mostly has to deal with Dana's ex-husband. He would be the father of Coop. So this is the policeman's ex-husband. He's living with a stripper. He is a would-be tattoo artist at this point. It has mostly to do with kind of their relationship. It's starting to fall apart because they're trapped where they're at. They're feeling trapped. This issue, the way it's kind of told is you get a page of kind of like the ideal life for the person. This is what Danny wanted his life to be. This is what Danny's life's actually like. And of course, it's all crap, Then you get this is what, so-and-so's life wanted to be like, and this is the crap that it really is. I mean, Nikki, that's the girlfriend, the stripper. The first page, she's an astronaut. She's outside fixing the space station because it's got a leak in it. She saves it just in time. She goes inside. She's getting ready to go to bed. Her mom calls her up via, through the satellites. And, oh, every time I look up to the stars and I see an object moving, it may not be you, but I always think it's you. It's this beautiful, beautiful life, right? Of course, the next page, she's stripping. She's got some, greasy guy shoving dollars down her suit and asking for a threesome and all this other stuff. This is what her real life is like. I mean, so you get a lot of that in the book, which I enjoyed, that kind of the dream life versus what life is really like. As far as the main plot goes, the army is wrangling up these kind of ghosty spirits. They seem to think they have some sort of battle plan as to how they're going to use those to get rid of the revivers, because they're starting to make a connection between the ghosty spirits and the revivers. Right. If we put the two together, or something's going to happen, and we may get rid of all of this stuff. So could be interesting. And also, meanwhile, we've got our Amish samurai sword swinging assassin is in the trees watching what's going on at Danny's house. She's kind of watching all this stuff before she makes her move, because she's been hired via the CIA, kind of a type of a thing, to just kind of take care of the problem. So we'll see exactly what happens. She's hunting the two sisters down who are hiding. They're actually hiding at the police station in the sub basement, and the cops are covering for them. Anytime the army shows up to ask questions, one of the policemen that works at the station, he's gay, and he hits on all the guys that show up. So he figures either he's going to get lucky, which is fine with him, or it's going to freak them out so bad because they can't handle being hit on by this policeman that they'll quit asking questions and go away. And so far it's worked. And so they're hiding out in the basement, kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do now, because of course everybody's after them because they've kind of killed some people, and they're not complying with the military and stuff like that. So stuff's getting interesting. That's issue 37. I want to say it ends at issue 42, but maybe it's 47. We don't have a whole lot longer, it seems like, before the whole thing's going to come to an end. So going to be curious to see how it all pans out at the end.
Yeah, and it's definitely been a good story. I'm way back in trades, but I mean, I've enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. If I wouldn't be able to tell somebody where to jump on this book at, as far as if you're going to read it in singles. Yeah. Certainly grab the trades. I think I would think it would be well worth it in trade. Yes. Because it does have some complicated stuff going on. Complicated in the fact that it something will weave in, and you may not see it again for another 10 issues, and then it'll suddenly pop back up, and you'll go, oh, about something that happened. You see piles of teeth in like the first issue. Oh. You'll see piles of teeth in like issue 24 will suddenly show back up again, kind of a thing. It makes you go, oh. So yeah, there's some cool stuff like that. Like I said, if you've watched Twin Peaks, it has some elements of that, just the kind of strangeness as far as that goes, this kind of, small town sci-fi noir kind of a thing. Right. So, yeah. And finally, the last book I read this week was Replica issue 4, Aftershock comic. Still really loving the artwork by Andy Clark. I just love his style of work. In this issue, our main guy, Trevor, is really pissed off at all of his clones, all 58 of them, because they're all a bunch of assholes. Well, all of his clones are aspects of him. So wait a second. What does that make him? So he's kind of coming to that realization. This is a funny issue because, so the guy on this cover here, it's a guy that looks like Sherlock Holmes, kind of. He's hitting a golf ball and he's yelling 4, and of course the golf ball is coming straight at him. This is clone number 4. And he is the biggest freaking brown noser. He really, four is probably the one guy that wants to be the most like Trevor, but he wants to be better than Trevor. He's like the overachiever aspect of Trevor. And so Trevor really hates him because everybody else loves number 4. Because number 4 is such an overachiever. He's always there to give the extra whatever to everybody they need. And he's just like, oh, dude, will you get over it, kind of thing. So the cover is kind of funny as far as that goes. As far as the interstellar mystery of who killed this ambassador and whatnot, we're starting to get a clearer picture of what's happening there. It's kind of intergalactic espionage as this one race of people are trying to eliminate another one to do a power grab on these ancient relic pieces of machinery that we don't know what do. But it's basically kind of in some degree, it's a cop procedural with, of course, this whole clone aspect thrown in that makes it kind of funny, but also intriguing at the same time. And what would you do if you had a whole bunch of aspects of yourself walking around in the flesh and blood? How do you deal with that? Plus, we have this kind of cop procedural, big time crime thing that's going on. And there seems to be every issue, there seems to be some sort of an explosion at the end of the book that sets up the excitement for the next issue. So it does work out well as far as that goes with Paul Jenkins writing. So it's been entertaining. It's been a fun book. I think I think this is probably my favorite of the Aftershocks books. I really liked Second Sight #1, but that was only #1. I can't really get more issues of that. But like comparing this to like the Insects and American, is it American Gangster? Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. I do like. I think I like this one the best so far out of them. But I've been enjoying quite a bit of the Aftershocks books. So, yeah,
Sure.
Good stuff. Good quality paper. It's got the heavier stock paper. The cover is made of card, so it stands up to that and whatnot. So,
which
yeah.
should be the standard of the industry, but yeah.
Especially if you're paying $3.99 for the book.
Yes.
I mean, which is crazy with the Marvel books, of course, because you pay the most for them and they're the worst quality of all of them. So, yeah. Yes, Ryan, I knew as soon as I said CIA that I was going to be paying for that. So thank you very much for that. So give me your address after the show so I can mail you your tinfoil hat, okay? At any rate, that's it for books. I don't know of any independent news. I think it's I think I had was the kind of the Sandman thing. I don't think there's really a whole lot else as far as
like
that goes.
Said, I mean, the news will be coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, that weekend's going to be pretty exciting, right? Because that weekend we have the announcement of all the DC stuff. Yeah. I think we'll start taking guesses, right, as to what we actually collect and what we aren't going to collect out of the DC universe. Of course, that's Batman versus Superman that weekend.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I will have seen it by Saturday because I plan on going opening night if I can get into the theater to see it. So, yeah. Anything else? Anything else we want to talk about? We want to look ahead as to what's.
Sure. The Last Days of Magic with Doctor Strange starts that new arc. So.
Oh, okay. So does that actually start in the Doctor Strange book?
I believe so.
That's not actually its own miniseries, right?
I hope not, because I don't really think I'm going to be jumping into anything.
I hope not, because if it is, I missed ordering it probably.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure it's just Doctor Strange, and then I guess you're supposed to grab the others, but I don't know that I'll get the other books. The Mighty Thor, it's the big Thor versus Odin fight with this new Thor, so
nice.
I'm looking forward to that.
Get another issue of Weird World, right?
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
For us Vision fans, Vision #5 comes out. Stoked for that. As far as Marvel stuff goes.
I think the Weird World looks like they're going to be in Candyland or something. So that'll be
awesome. Hey, final issue of Black Jack Ketchum comes out, I think.
Yes, yeah. So it's I mean, it's one of those that I also like it, but I don't know that I could recommend it to somebody.
Sure. Well, this will be the final issue, so you'll be able to give us a final asset. How did it end? Is it something the rest of us, you didn't pick it up and we want to pick up and trade or something, right? Yeah. Headlopper comes out. That's kind of a quarterly book that I get a real kick out of. Another issue of Limbo comes out. Another issue of No Mercy. Shudder. I don't know if people can see my shirt or not. I'm wearing my Shudder shirt. Should I show off my Shudder shirt?
Sure.
There you go. See if I can sit up here enough to show it off. There it is, my Shudder shirt.
Oh yeah.
So that comes out. So I'm excited for that. Always enjoy that book.
Yeah, the color on that shirt really pops. So.
Yeah, it's a really good graphic. It really came out looking cool.
New Suicide Squad should be coming out.
Cool. Right on. Another issue of Constantine or Catwoman. Issue 50. We're hitting the issue 50s. And of course, issue 50 is $4.99. All those issue 50s. $4.99. Action Comics number 50. $4.99. Boo. Another issue of Dark and Bloody comes out. Get a better sense of whether or not I'm really going to enjoy that or not. So another issue of Neuromancer comes out. I'll just put that in a stack and probably not read it. But
there's a beautiful Green Arrow and Canary statue. It's the one where she's holding the bow and he's kind of holding under her, and it's that classic pose with the two.
Yeah, is that the one? Is it the one with him over her shoulder?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the wedding. It's the wedding one. They put out a wedding special comic book, and that's off that cover. It's a Amanda Connor based statue.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm tempted on that one, but it's pricey. So.
Yeah, I bet. Let's see. I think that's. I mean, I know I'm getting other stuff, but I think that's the main things that leap out right offhand. I think. Alrighty then. Let me look back here at the comments really quick, and we'll maybe call it a night. American Monster. That's what it was. I think Gangster did not sound right as far as the Aftershocks comics goes. So, at any rate, yes, Fred, hit me up on Twitter, and we'll see about getting you on next week. Be on the show. Anybody else wants to be on the show, you just need to hit me up somehow, and we'll see if we can get you worked into being on the show. But if you get your books, get them read, you can come on. Hopefully, these many books as I'm getting, I get my books on Friday instead of Saturday. This week I lucked out. I didn't have that many books because my books ended up on the wrong side of the state on Friday, so I had to wait an extra day to get them. So, anyway, anything else we want to talk about, Mike?
With Netflix, they are supposedly looking at doing a season 3 for Young Justice, but they are monitoring.
Really?
Yeah, they're monitoring how people are streaming it right now. So Chris Jones is telling people, stream.
Okay, so every night I will just turn on.
Yes.
I will just turn on, and everybody else should. If you have unlimited data, you should all just turn on your Netflix to Young Justice and just let it stream all night long, so we can get more of that. Because that thing got canceled way before it should have. So
but yeah, quite a few of the voice actors. Chris Jones, who's done some work on the physical copies, is kind of helping push this. But he's reminding people, because people are hashtagging it, he says, company doesn't care about hashtags. Stream it. So
yeah. You know, 2 or 3 vocal people on Twitter don't cut it in comparison to the actual hard data that they'll be able to pull off of the streaming.
Yeah.
And speaking of Netflix and whatnot, next week or the week after that, Daredevil starts?
Sounds right, yeah.
So
I got to fake an injury or something.
Yeah, because it's like the middle of the week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt. That's gonna be cool. I'm excited for that. First season was a lot of fun, so curious to see what the whole Punisher thing in there and Elektra thrown in, exactly how that's all going to work out. Sounds a lot busier than the first season. You know, the first season was relatively simple, right? I mean, basically him kind of coming into being Daredevil, one opponent to really deal with, you know, starting to hint at the whole stick thing and the hand stuff. You know, that all kind of got hinted at. So I'm curious to see. I think that's kind of one of the things that made it work, was it because it was fairly simple. I'm curious to see if the second season gets muddy because of how much stuff they have going on in the second season. You know, try to throw too much Daredevil content into it all at once, and not confusing for those of us, I think, who know all this stuff, but I don't know.
And I know they're always worried about how comic booky should they make it, because, you know, if it's too crazy too quickly, will we you know, be overblown by it? So.
Yeah. Well, I know plenty of people who are not comic book fans at all. I mean, don't read comics. I mean, they know who you know, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man is, but they don't have a clue, you know, outside of that because of the way Netflix works, you turn on your Netflix, if it's the new thing Netflix has put out, it's the first thing that pops up on your screen for streaming. And they went, "Oh, what's that?" And they started watching it and they love it without any real clue other than it, the stuff in there that says it's Marvel, without any real clue that that's a comic book thing. That until they were talking about one day and I go, "Yeah, the comic book," and they're like, "Oh, there's a comic book of that?" I mean zero, clue, but
Yeah.
So
Well, and I know that they also cast for Iron Man, or sorry, Iron Fist, Danny
Right.
Rand, and they've hinted or mentioned that they're thinking about adding the kung fu artist, Shang Li.
you're right. Right.
All right, so it's things like that that I think they're finally getting comfortable with just letting it be,
Yeah.
the comics. So
Yeah. Clearly there was some controversy around that whole thing. People were not happy. There were people who weren't happy that they cast a Caucasian for the Danny Rand character, though clearly in the comic book he's been a Caucasian character. Yeah. But and I understand the idea behind the only reason he was a Caucasian character was the era that he was made in.
Right.
That was acceptable.
Yeah.
In this day and age, that wouldn't be acceptable. So why wouldn't you just, cast him as an Asian American or something? So then there's the whole debate on, did they decide to put the Kung Fu Master in because then they could make him of Asian descent and go, see, we have an Asian cast member, kind of thing. And of course, that either is good or bad, depending on how you want to look at that too. So, I mean, I get the argument. Danny Rand's been a white guy. Why would we suddenly change him to something else? But I also get the argument, if you made that character now, why wouldn't he be, why, you could tell most of the same story the other way around. So, whatever.
I am just waiting for Luke Cage and see if he says "Sweet Christmas" or, "Nip Nack Paddywhack."
Oh, yes. That's funny. That was funny in that issue. Yeah. So, looking forward to the next issue of that to see how that keeps going. So, right on. Okay, well, I think we've talked our books. Thanks for coming on and holding down the fort, Mike.
Always enjoyable.
We'll be back, I'm sure, next week with more comics and more poignant things to say. I'm sure we'll somehow introduce the CIA into that conversation too. I have to say, this is probably a record. This is the only night we've gone without talking about Deadpool. So I know, and I just wrecked it, right? So that's pretty impressive. Anyway, thank you all, everybody who tuned in live for the show tonight. Always appreciate you being here. Those of you who comment. I didn't keep up with all the comments this time because it seemed like a lot of it was its own conversation that didn't have completely to do with what me and Mike were talking about, but that's awesome. That's what the chat room is about. It's about having your own conversation. Outside of that, you can participate how you want to. At any rate, I appreciate y'all being here, spending your Saturday evening doing this as opposed to, whatever else is out there, watching the UFC or whatever else is on tonight that you could be doing instead of this. So I appreciate that. And especially all of you people who watch this thing later on down the road, always appreciate that you all watch it too. I love sitting here and talking comic books with you guys, and those of you in the comments and stuff. It adds to my level of enjoyment of the comics. I could probably hold you all responsible for at least $100 a month worth of my comic book addiction, because I probably wouldn't read as many books as I do if I didn't have you people to talk about. So thank you all for that. And have a great night.